Ba, 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 ba,
Sounded
ba.
like some very strange.
Ba, ba, ba,
I
ba.
was like floating in space, trying to figure
It's
out where are we going, what are we doing.
We're
Anyway,
very mystical. Just
hi
stick with it.
everybody. Happy Wednesday, or when you're listening to this, happy
Happy
that
day.
blank day,
Happy
whatever that
blank
day
day to
is.
you. Hope you're having a blank day.
So if we are with you on your walk or on your drive or while you're sitting on the couch, hi, good to be with you. We wanted to take today and actually share some of the new protocols. People ask us all the time, what's your daily routine? How do you stay in this shape? What are you doing in life? Things like that. And it's interesting because we were just talking backstage, like we hardly ever share this stuff. And even though we are so into it, we research this stuff a ton, we're trying and testing a ton, but most of our conversations end up being about personal development and wellness and spirituality and things like that. So we thought we would actually take today to go down this other path and share with you some of the practices and some of the things that we are currently using, implementing to help our mind, the body, the soul to just feel more in alignment, feel more alert, awake, inspired, connected, energized, etc. I will tell you this, that everything that we share with you here today is our opinion. This is not, like we are not medical practitioners. One of the things that Guy and I live by, this credo, it's like test everything for yourself. Like I have followed the greatest, what people call like health gurus in the field, and I try what they tell me, and it makes my body feel like absolute dog shit. So it's not a one size fits all. Each body is a different body. The physiology is different. Where you live is different. The amount of stress that you're under is different. Like run experiments, try something for a week, really test that thing. Don't change like 12 things at once. Test that one thing, see how that's making you feel. Like when I add a supplement, it's the only one thing that I'm adding at any given time. I don't add like 12 and go, oh, I feel crappy. Because then you're like, well, I don't know what of those 12 things is actually making me feel crappy or good. So that's what we want to chat
The
with
good
you about today.
old-fashioned split test. The
Say it again?
good old-fashioned A/B split test.
Yeah, A/B split test. Yeah, and I would just offer, like, don't be afraid to try new things, and don't be afraid to give it a week, see how your body responds. Some things take a little bit longer than a week. I always kind of give myself in the back of my mind, like I'm going to do something for 30 days and really see. But usually my body responds fairly fast to things. So usually within a week, I'm able to kind of venture a guess whether this is something that I want to continue or not.
Cool.
Yeah.
So give me your rabbit hole. What are you doing these days?
You know what? So as far as meditation is concerned, I'll just start with that because I change it all the time, and I've really, really been loving the the Reginald Ray Meditations, who I think you told me is now on
He's
Insight
on it.
Timer. Or
He's clearly been on there for a while. He's got a pretty large following on there.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've done any of our meditations, then you know that the kind of meditations that we are proponents of aren't the ones where you just like sit there and try to release your thoughts and get to that blank mind, or focus on your breath, which I think for a lot of people is very, very challenging. Even for the most practiced of practitioners, it is very, very challenging to get to that level. So I call our meditations a lot more active meditation. So you're kind of engaged in an ongoing process. That's one. The other thing is they're transmission based. So there's an energetic exchange that is happening, which as you open your system more, you're able to feel more of that energetic transmission. So if you haven't done ours, then I highly recommend doing that. And then, yeah, Reginald Ray has a very, very strong transmission, especially when it comes to like grounding energies. So it's been really beautiful. And I've even noticed in my other practices that I've done that it's really helped to open my system in a way to like receive other energies, because you've probably heard us talk about this, but like that grounding energy where you can kind of build in your lower dantian, that like lower part of your, between the root and your belly button,
Mhm.
that little area over there. It's kind of like the nuclear reactor for our body. And if there's a well of energy there, you really feel this connection to earth, and things don't phase you in the same way. You're just a lot calmer. Life slows down. There's a lot more insight and intuition and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really helped me in that. What I used to do is I used to get out of bed after meditation, or out of this chair after meditation, and I used to be in this like very swimmy, blissed in, blissed out phase for about an hour, possibly sometimes longer, which I love. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it. But you know, like you sit down at your desk and you're trying to do some work and your mind is like, but why? We could just sit here and be in there, right? So it's like, and so I watched a video of a guy do a 30-day body transformation, and all he was doing was these 4-minute planks. So it's
Cool.
4 minutes of planks in the morning. You just hold it. It doesn't have to be 4 minutes straight. That would be a lot for most humans.
You didn't mention that. You did not mention that the first time that you said that. So the first morning after that, I did a 4-minute plank the morning after, straight through, and it was like devastating to my ego, because I made it like 3 minutes really well, and then that last minute was torture. Like
4 minutes is, I mean, if you could do
it's a lot.
4 minutes straight. By the way, there's a guy, I think in the world record books, I could be slightly off, but he held the plank for something like 8 hours.
Wow, that's
Which is, I can't even, I don't even understand how physiologically that's possible, but like,
Mhm.
yeah, it was just something, and he was an older guy. It was crazy.
I'm guessing
Anyway,
he's not married though, because if you're like, honey, I'm gonna train for this plank challenge 6 hours a day. Don't talk to me. I'm gonna be stiff as a board
uh,
here on the carpet nonstop. Like the marriage is not gonna last.
um,
All right, honey, it's your dream.
just here to support you.
Just
You need
here
me
to
to sit
support
on
you.
you or something?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so now I wake up and I have done a minute plank. Well, I'll do 30 push-ups and then a minute plank, and then 30 push-ups and a minute plank, 30 push-ups and a minute for 4 minutes. Sometimes I'll add like a leg exercise in between there just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, you can almost feel like your body, because you know you're in that blissed in, blissed out state, and then you do this, and it just kind of like rushes all this blood into your body, and it feels really good to start my day, and kind of that like I have the clarity, and I also have that like energized feeling. So yeah, that's been really, really wonderful.
You don't find that to be too much of a load on your body first thing in the morning, like on your shoulders or something?
No, I have to say, like, I have felt so strong actually recently because
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
like I said, like my body responds really fast.
it's like you're working out you know what the hard points in a car are. It's like the places that can't change. You're working out those like really important points, because obviously shoulders and core is getting a ton, and feet,
Yeah,
like all the stability points are getting a lot of work.
yeah. So yeah, that's been great. Like just to throw that into the mix has been wonderful. Other than that, you know, like I think Guy and I both intermittent fast. So that's something that everyone asks me, like, how do you stay so lean all the time? Blah blah blah. I'm like, intermittent fasting has kind of been the greatest, the greatest thing for body.
I will
benefiting
say
from.
this though, for women should do a lot of research on intermittent fasting beforehand. It's not there's a lot of studies showing that it's actually not great for women's hormones. So for men it actually seems to achieve quite a bit, but for women, unfortunately, like many things, is a little bit harder for them. So just be mindful. Like
Yeah.
my wife can intermittent fast. She'll literally pass out. Like she can't make
So
it.
your wife has nothing to burn to intermittent fast on, so
Yeah.
it's not a possibility.
So it depends on that for sure. But yeah, just
Yeah,
again to put the disclaimer out there that it's definitely not a one size fits all solution.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I
Just
definitely
like
agree on that
keto,
front.
people are all obsessed with keto, and keto is also like there's people that have really, really adverse effects from the keto diet.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I think you got to test everything. Okay, so physical. Let me ask you this question. What are your like no miss supplements? Like what is things that you absolutely won't go throughout a day or you won't miss
Yeah,
for a long period of time? Like what are you doing for body
yeah,
optimization, mind optimization, stuff like that?
good question. So honestly, Restore, so which I think now it's relabeled
It's ion gut right now.
Ion
Gut.
Ion Biome, or I don't know, something like
Yeah.
that. But if you guys want, Dr. Zach Bush has a ton of incredibly beautiful videos and interviews online. Like he is just, when it comes to gut, I don't know that I've ever listened to anyone that's more in tune or knowledgeable about the gut. And it's cool because him learning the science of the gut has really, uh, it like opened his mind to what is possible. That's way more than just science. It's he's really quite an elevated human.
Yeah, and I would say well beyond just the gut. He's just his knowledge of physiology, his knowledge of virology. He just does incredible interviews. Like 2 hours of listening to him, you really get educated. He's also the kind of guy who is doing amazing work with soil restoration all over the planet. They've
Yep.
restored more than 1 million acres of land back to health because part of the reason we have such bad food supply these days and lack of nutrition is our topsoil has been cultivated over and over again. And so there's all these things that we now know that we've been doing in farming practices really, really wrong for about 100 years. And so we're getting, significant challenges in farming from it. And there's absolutely a way to bring it back to health. And it actually doesn't take all that much. It's just a few little changes. So just to kind of harp on what Elon's saying, because that is my number one supplement too. If you guys need information on that supplement, we have a short link for you. Just go to satoriprime.com/restore. That'll take you right over to his website. And essentially, what they do is they reintroduce groundwater, I believe, from about 100 million years old groundwater that still has completely healthy biome, essentially, like the bacteria and everything that would be found in healthy soil. And so, as you reintroduce that back into the gut, you can rebalance the gut because even if you're taking probiotics, prebiotics, stuff like that, even if it's a really high quality one, that's good. But my understanding is you're supposed to cycle on and off of probiotics because essentially what you're doing is you're feeding a vertical of microbiome. So if you have like 33,000 different bacterias in your body and you're treating, let's say, 10,000 of them, you're basically growing that third while the other two thirds is staying down. So over time, you could actually create disbalance and create actually problems for yourself.
It's
So a
actually
lot of
even
people,
worse than that. It's not a third. It's every probiotic is basically like three strains
right?
of the 30,000. So you're basically like blasting like billions of this three strain into a pool of 30,000. And the system actually can counteract that because all of a sudden there's this influx of this one, which can create adverse effects in your gut. And so
Right.
what Restore does is basically
Feeds the
helps
whole body.
create like the perfect equilibrium for your body.
Yeah.
Um,
So you're feeding the entire microbiome
yeah,
essentially
exactly.
evenly. And then a huge benefit of that is a decrease in glyphosate levels in the body. And again, glyphosate, you can go down that rabbit hole, but it's basically what we consume from pesticides. And this destroys the gut lining in the stomach and also breaks down the communication network of your body. So cells, for example, that might need nutrients cannot communicate that to the body. And like everything else in nature, when something can't be in communication, can't get nutrition, and it's dying, one of the adverse effects of that is that a cell will then quickly replicate itself in order to try to save its DNA. And this is cancer essentially. So if you can rebuild that gut lining, first of all, you're much more resilient in your immune system. Things don't get into the blood-brain barrier quite as easy. And secondly, of course, if that cell can communicate with the body and get what it needs, it will not have to replicate like a cancerous cell. And so you're kind of warding that off. And his research is just like mind blowing, and it's such a simple thing to do for health. And I know the moment it was one of the few things when I took originally. I don't feel it now, but I imagine it's because I'm more well balanced. Is like cognitive. I felt like a cognitive difference when I first started taking it, of like clarity that I hadn't had. So definitely my top supplement for sure.
Yeah, so that's definitely in there. And I would also offer, I was saying to someone like, I haven't really gotten sick since starting to take it. Like people in my house will get sick, and I have a different protocol for like when I feel certain things come on, but it's really, it bulletproofs your immune system, your body, corrects leaky gut. It can help you restore hair growth. Like, I mean, they've done some incredible studies with it. So that's my number one. One that I've added relatively recently, in lieu of a yerba mate or a coffee, which I was doing way back when, even decaf or bulletproof. At around 10:30 or so in the morning, I will just do a green powder drink.
Like a matcha.
No, it's just like a green powder blend of like
Oh, I see.
all the
Like
things
a
like
superfoods.
spirulina, yeah, like
Yeah.
spirulina and whatever.
Chlorella.
Yeah. But it's, there's tons of them. And um, yeah, that's pretty much the only two things I put in my body till usually around like 1:30 or 2. Um, and I've learned that it actually doesn't, like the green doesn't break your intermittent fast, which is great. So yeah, and then that's it. Those are kind of like the only two that I would say on the daily I'm taking. Yeah, I was taking more vitamin D when I was up north.
Sure.
I still take it, but less regularly. I mean, I'm getting the natural stuff, which is way better
Yeah.
on a daily.
So apparently, not the same. Recently found this out. Like things that I've heard are like the must haves: vitamin C daily, super strong antioxidant, and you can't overdo it. But of course, we want to stop. Most people are taking like just regular vitamin C. Not very helpful. You want to get the liposomal or absorbic. Those actually get into the body way better. Vitamin K, surprisingly, I just recently found out is like must have. Goes well beyond just platelets and stuff like that. Huge effects on the body. CoQ10 for anti-aging and just overall like body health is really important. I know people take those, but I'm with you. I'm pretty simple. Even with supplements, I cycle on and off. Usually that looks like taking them during the week, not taking them during the weekends. And I also do superfoods and superfruits and stuff like that in drinks, and that's should supplement for the most part. And then of course like fish oils and stuff like that, omega-3s, 6 and 9s.
I
Um,
will say that I drink a shake almost exclusively now for lunch.
yeah,
Um, and again, this is just something that I've tested with my body. I find that for lunch, from a time perspective, right? Like making a shake takes me 5 minutes. The whole process between making it and drinking it is like 10 minutes. So there's not like a time delay of just getting out of my rhythm. The other thing is I have found that most things that I eat for lunch, unless it's like just a green salad or maybe some fruit and some nuts, um, anything beyond that, like any piece of protein that I would eat, like even if it's like a small piece of chicken or some fish on a salad, I would still find that my energy levels like
yeah,
dipped.
yeah,
Whereas when I drink the shake or have a piece of fruit and like a couple of nuts or something, I don't have that. So again, this is just like from me testing things. I used to eat lunches. I used to do all that. I used to eat like really clean lunches, and I have just found that this is the best thing for me.
My simple rule of thumb is eat something that maximum in 2 hours, I won't feel like I have a full stomach anymore. Like it'll be like an empty belly.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I modulate how much food I eat or anything else. It's been helpful for me because I'm like, I eat it, I'm like, all right, like that's it. Because we satiate way before we feel full,
Yeah.
basically. So usually it takes like 10 minutes for your body to recognize. One thing I did discover recently, and I don't know if you're still doing this, do you still take Udo's oils?
No.
Okay, good, because I have been, and the other day I found this out and I was extremely disappointed. So, his compound is very, very good, but one of the first ingredients he uses is flaxseed oil,
Yeah.
and flaxseed deteriorates testosterone. It inhibits testosterone in men. So for women, it's fine, but for men, again, I've been taking it every day while working out, and I have found like, oh, what's going on? Like I'm finding this disbalance, and I had no idea, and it could be like literally just flaxseed oil every day. So whether you're eating flax seeds, mixing them into drinks, or taking them as oils, and if you're a man, it's essentially inhibiting your testosterone production.
Interesting.
Yeah, good to know. Okay. Anything else you want to share?
Um, yeah, I'm just gonna plug this guy online. I have no affiliation with him whatsoever, but his workouts have literally changed the lower half of my body in like the most dramatic of ways. His YouTube channel is Knees Over Toes Guy, and I found him out because I was like rehabbing my right knee, and honestly, like I've been able to do things with my legs recently that have blown me away from a flexibility and strength perspective, where I'm just like, wow, that's amazing.
Can you give an example of what you do?
Yeah, so his big thing is about so like everyone always said like, keep your knees behind your keep your knee when you bend, like keep your knees behind your toes. And the whole thing is like that's asinine. You're Doesn't make any sense. Like look at any explosive movement that any human has ever made, from jumping high or sprinting or whatever it is. And so he works on all of these muscles to create stability, like in and around your leg in all these awesome ways. So one of the things is like he has this squat where you like really push your knee out. And
Okay.
when my knee was injured, I couldn't get it past that like 90-degree way. Like it would really hurt. And now I'm able to like do it exactly like on my left and right. He does all these things where you almost like bend. So I don't know if you can see, but where you like bend down like this, like super slow.
Come back towards the mic. Yeah, I got you. But no one,
Yeah.
no one, no one on the podcast can see you anyway.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, yeah, we're on video while we're doing this, but yeah, like very interesting moves that when I first did them felt like really awkward and just not stable. Like when you do something and like everything's like shaking because it's just wiggly.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, big shout out to him. He has a ton of free content, and yeah, that's been really great for my workouts.
that's awesome. Yeah, I've had that on the back burner to give it a shot.
Yeah,
Seems really good.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So I think that's most of the stuff that I've been adding of
Is
late.
there is there anything that you're doing right now that people would find surprising?
Um, I'm going to bed at like 9 p.m. Ever since
No,
I moved to Florida, I can't
that's
stay
that's
awake.
not that's not health. That's just because you're living in Boca Raton.
I gotta say, you know what it is? I think like being out in the sun.
For sure.
I used to think it was just like kids, like we used to take our kids to the sun, like it was like a sunny beach day or pool day, and then be out like super early. I put the kids to bed now. They go to bed at like around 8:30. Also, we have a smaller house, like we don't have like a TV room, so we're kind of like we go to our room. But man, by like 9:30, I'm just like,
Drunk.
okay, I'm tired.
Sun,
I'm out.
sun drunk. Well, it tells you something about our ancestors, right? They were out in the sun all day long, up with the sun, down with the sun. It's
Plenty of
like
hours.
sun cycles, right? Yeah, I agree too.
Plenty of
Um,
hours.
we go to bed a lot earlier these days. It makes me feel way more regulated throughout the day. Like it's kind of funny, people will push themselves an extra hour. They're binge watching Netflix, but it's like it's probably like the number one health deterioration that people do is blue light, staying past the bedtime, not going to sleep at adequate time, then they wake up and groggy and tired the next morning. It's like I don't care what you're doing health wise, mentally, emotionally, physically. Like if you're not sleeping well, you're making everything harder for yourself.
Sleep,
Yeah,
sleep is everything. I mean, there's so many studies. Like if you're not getting good quality sleep, and I will say just because you're in bed for X amount of hours doesn't necessarily mean that you're
sure.
getting good quality sleep. Like people always say, oh, I drink a glass or two of wine and it knocks me out. Like, yeah, but then you're waking up at 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 in the morning. Your rest is like super broken up. And it's like, that's why you wake up just feeling hungover and shitty.
Yeah, and to your point, more of the recent studies on sleep show that it's actually not even duration; it's the uninterrupted sleep that's
Right.
really important. So like the 4 or 5 hours of uninterrupted sleep is really what matters. And when you're drinking, you're not going to get that. Or when
That's
you're
why, I mean, this ring, like, that's why I love it. Cause for example, like I started taking magnesium at the end of the night, like a magnesium pill, which is really supposed to help with sleep. And for whatever reason, so far, what I've tracked is every night that I've taken it, my sleep has been shittier. So
huh,
again, like,
you also may not need it, right? Like again, these are the things people don't think about with medical science generally and how it's done in the States. Like you go to a doctor, they do a blood sample, and here's what we all need to understand about blood samples: they're highly inaccurate. It matters what time of the day you took it, what did you eat the night before, because what you're basically getting with blood work is a momentary snapshot from that exact slice of time, given whatever stresses and circumstances you're under in that particular moment. So you might measure the same thing in the morning and measure it at night and get two completely different things. And yet it's the best we got and it's what we're going off of. But it doesn't, like, at the end of the day, you kind of have to like intuit some of this stuff and really um, feel into your system, because if you have a lot of magnesium and you're pushing it again, like zinc and copper, stability in the body, like a 1-to-1 ratio is really important. Most people have too much of one or the other. And so, there's all these, I don't want to call it ailments, but disbalances that can occur. And again, because we're supplementing and not getting it from our food, we're not exactly getting the natural way that our bodies have biologically been developed to take supplements. And so it's not a perfect science that we're doing here. And until we really have technology, and I'm knocking here because I know the guy who's going to get it done. Until we have technology where you can like pee and poop into a toilet bowl, or have something on your skin that's measuring moment by moment what's happening in your body, everything else is practice at this point in time. Like we just
I'm
don't actually know
so
what's going
excited.
on.
Everyone like is like, oh my God, at some point we're just gonna eat a pill for I'm like, I'm so freaking excited for the day that I get to walk to a device, stick my finger in there, have it like check my blood and spit out like this one perfect vitamin that I get to take and like my body's optimal. And then you know what? Like going out to eat at restaurants is like a joy, right? Like this process that you look forward to because
Sure.
this is what gives you sustenance. Like I'm very on board for that future.
Sure. I think like the reality is you want to do the right thing 80 to 90% of the time, right? And the other 10 to 20% you can kind of do the hack job and do whatever you want with it. But yeah, I mean that'll be exciting, and I actually don't think we're that far off.
We're not
When
that
I
far off.
did when I did my DNA testing with 23andMe, I did find a company that you can upload your DNA data and it spits out custom multivitamins for you based on your DNA. And I found out that like based on my DNA markers, like turmeric was like terrible for me. Yeah. And up until that point I was drinking turmeric every single morning because again, all the anti-inflammatory and promises that curcumin and turmeric have, and yet not good
So
for
it's
me.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting that you say that because I'm sure our DNA is like incredibly similar, right? Um, Turmeric's one of those things because again, like anti-inflammatory, all this amazing, amazing benefits. I have tried like 4 different variations. I tried powder. I tried pills. I tried that. I tried sticking it in my smoothies. Every time I take turmeric, I have this like indigestion that happens. that has been so uncomfortable that I'm like, you know what? I don't give a shit about the benefits. Like, it's not comfortable for me. And so I just stopped. And that's right. Like, this is what we're talking about. To the point of like, listen to your own body. Like, I
Sure.
can't take turmeric anymore. So
Sure.
it's funny that you say that.
And most people should not be taking turmeric anyway. They should be getting curcumin, which is what's really good about the turmeric and way more beneficial for you. But I agree. Like again, different strokes for different folks. Like I can't eat eggplants anymore.
Oh, interesting.
They I can, but I literally get mouth sores when I eat it. It's gotten to that point. Like I get
Wow.
from and I think that's nightshades because tomatoes do that to my
I
mouth
was going to
too.
say tomatoes probably too.
And I'm like, hey, if it's doing that to my mouth, it's doing that to my body, So, and I love eggplants. Like, we're Middle Eastern. It's like baba ganoush is a fucking staple. So once in a
It
while, I'm
is.
like, all right, yeah. Once in a while, I'm like, fuck it, and I eat it. But that's the reality, right? Like that's what my body's doing. So I just want to give you guys a few more things that I've been doing that I think are pretty cool recently, and I've been testing. So Elon's been off coffee for a while. I was holding on for dear life, hoping that it would work out. But what I found over the last few years, and it could certainly be a number of variables that are occurring here. Maybe it's age, but the truth is I've been able to put down coffee my entire life, and I haven't really thought much of it, like probably the rest of you, because because it's an addiction. I'm sorry, it's a habit. It's a habit that you have, but really, it's like addiction, right? And the thing with coffee, I think Elon would agree, is like beyond the effects, which what I have been finding recently is like I actually don't like the effects of coffee. As I've gotten more sensitive, I find I get really anxious when I drink it. I'm very jittery. It's hard for me to be in my body. I'm literally uncomfortable. So I'm like, okay. And I was still drinking it anyway because again, I love my cup of coffee, right? Love my cup of coffee. But there's something about coffee, and then it's like I remember I used to smoke. I don't know how many people on the podcast know this, but I smoked for many years, like 10 years. I smoked cigarettes, and every time somebody would try to get you off of it, when you're in addiction, this is how it goes. They're like, okay, man, so you're gonna stop smoking? Yeah, I'll stop smoking. And they're like, okay, so these are the good reasons to stop smoking. You're like, you know what? Yeah, you're right, but I'm not that kind of smoker. And then you tell them that what kind of smoker you are. Then they debunk why that's a terrible way to be. And then you say, you're right, but I'm not actually that kind of smoker. I'm this kind of smoker. And you keep finding out that you're a different kind of smoker. Everything that's different than the people who need to stop. And with coffee, I find it with all addictions is like this, but with coffee, I find people say the same thing. There's always a reason, like, oh no, but I'm this guy. I really only drink one cup. But I'm really, what? I really just like the way that it feels. I like the texture, so to all those addicts, I say this: like, I'm with you. I totally get it, and it's taken me a long time to find something that suits me. Elon's like big on dandelion tea, and I know there's some others.
This one specific. I'm not a fan of dandelion teas. This one dandy blend on Amazon is
Shout out to Amazon. They're not making enough money, so send them more of yours. Yeah, so I tried all those, and I was just not satisfied. There is a company called Tea Chino, by the way, that does these kind of like dandelion oat blends that a lot of these companies try to mimic, and it's actually pretty good. Like it does a pretty good impression of coffee, same color, same texture, and all of it. Not the same flavor properties, but with a splash of milk, I would say quite alluring. But I got turned on to matcha. I've been having matcha for years, but I never like started drinking it every day. And I wrote a whole post about it, or you can go on my wall whenever you listen to this and look for it. But like the benefits of matcha, which is basically like the main compound of green tea, it's like the much more potent green tea, are just fucking incredible. To be perfectly honest, it's like the one of the healthiest things that you can ever put into your body, from like a blood cleanser to supporting your heart, your liver.
still has caffeine though,
Still has caffeine, but delivers it differently than coffee.
because
It's
it has
kind of
the
like
L-theanine.
yeah, exactly. There's L-theanine, so it's kind of the difference between like taking caffeine all as one shot, or kind of like getting it. It's only 35 milligrams per, so it's like basically a third of what a cup of coffee would be, and it's like staggers itself out in how it hits the system. I still do find it if I put too much in, it's like a little overwhelming for my system nonetheless. But it doesn't. But there's no crash, and it wears off even if that's going on pretty rapidly. Not like coffee, which can last a few hours. Great for fat loss, obviously, and all that kind of stuff. Like, And one of the main things about it is coffee, when it hits your stomach, turns acidic. Matcha, when it hits your stomach, turns base. So it's actually a non-acidic drink. So lots of benefits. And it's one of the few things why I mentioned it. It has that texture. It has this like earthiness, graininess to it. So like you can make it into a latte. I even throw turkey tail and lion's mane mushroom mixed into mine, not every day, but on a lot of days. And it's been like a really easy transition. Like if I was a heroin addict, like I'm on methadone now. So it's very good for me. I've been really, really enjoying it. And I've noticed
Also,
yeah.
because of the acidity, like that's the thing, like either caffeine, not caffeine, coffee, like it doesn't matter. The acidity of the burnt bean is just not good and not healthy for your stomach. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter the effect of the coffee, like inside your stomach is not good. Whereas things like matcha, yerba mate, green tea, things like that. And I know some people, can't really stomach those things, but there's actually like antioxidants, minerals, like there's things that are good for your body that when you put it into your stomach is actually creating goodness versus acidity.
Yeah. So that's a big one for me. I have a hack here that I imagine most people don't do is I'm a kind of obsessed with the quality of my water. So a few things I want to say about water here is number one, if you're drinking purified water, you're hurting yourself. Most people don't know that. Like if you buy a bottle of water and it says purified, it's actually causing you harm. It's not hydrating you properly. When you get purified water, that means it's been purified of its minerals as well. And so again, like everything else in nature, when it's trying to balance, if you're drinking purified water, the water is actually pulling minerals from your body in order to rebalance the water itself. So this could be calcium, potassium, pretty much salt, everything that you really actually need in your body as like a major component. The water actually pulls it out. So if you're not drinking mineral water,
Well, it's you need a reverse osmosis system that basically like
remineralizes.
remineralizes the water.
Correct. I'm saying,
And
I'm just saying for your average consumer, when they're buying water at the store, once it's purified, once it's mineral, the purified water is actually detrimental to your
by
health.
the way, another plug to Amazon and specifically to this company. I recently found, because we moved into this house and we had like one of those, like they didn't have a water system in Florida. Water's shit to begin with, and at first we got one of those like pure filters, which is like a pain in the ass just to like fill, and plus it's not reverse osmosis. So Amazon now sells these all-in-one units, so it doesn't even have like, it's a tankless unit. I installed it, and I'm not like super handy. Following a 3.5 minute YouTube video, I got it installed start to finish under 10 minutes. And it's fantastic.
Yeah. Have you?
Fantastic. And it's
So like,
300 bucks.
yeah, I mean, I bought like an under the sink system for like 200 with like a 5-stage filtration at our old house.
Yep.
And then I actually got like a tester to see the particulates, and it was shocking, honestly. Because San Diego, any basically water in the southern part of the country is shit. The water up north is way better. But I think like when I measured tap water, it had like 440 million particulates, however it's measured, it's ppm.
Yeah.
And then when I measured it after, it was like at 20, which basically means it's clean but has minerals in it. So it was like a massive difference. I mean,
Oh
450.
yeah, it's night and day when you.
Yeah. And then the other part is I want to say about water is structured water, which is not a conversation many people have. Water, even if good water, mineral water, when it sits around, it's not moving. It's not being affected by the magnetic field of the earth. It's not moving downstream. It's not getting sunlight. That water actually has a particular cellular structure that looks more like a diamond. And that is the water that we can fully absorb or mostly absorb. I said like 90% absorption into our cells. So our cells desperately need fat and water to be functional and to be able to detoxify themselves, right? Like aging is basically a oxidization process, right?
Yeah.
So in order to ward stuff off like that, like we want to be able to have antioxidants and detox properly. And so that's why water is so important, because it does help these small particulates in your body also be healthy. And so if the water is even sitting around for a long time, it actually breaks down that molecular structure and actually makes it less absorbable by your body. So there are different machines you can do research out there how to restructure water, from things that like spin water with these facets to certain crystals or rocks. Like, I don't know if Elon has his special.
Mine is actually energizing my water as we
That's right.
speak.
So is mine. That's why it's not here. That can, if they sit next to or in the water, can bring back that molecular structure, and then you're actually drinking structured water. And then the last bit is to always make sure you're putting some kind of electrolyte compound in there. I know you do that too. Yeah, big supplement hack.
In the last year, I will say, if anyone asks me, like, what is the greatest thing that you have found? Electrolytes in every cup of water, hands down, best thing I have done for my body. I'm talking like from an athletic performance and
Energized.
recovery standpoint. No, I mean, nothing has done more than electrolytes in water.
Yeah, I actually would say, if before everything else, get your water right. Like, get the water right. Yeah, and drink water. Yeah, I know there's a lot of other stuff I could talk about here, but I know we're like coming up on the hour. So maybe we'll do another round next time. But yeah, those are some of the things that we do on a pretty regular basis that help me for sure. Yeah, I agree on the waterfront. That was a big one. And then yeah, next time I'll tell you guys some about I've been doing a lot of research, so I'll do a little open loop here for the next podcast. I've been doing a ton of research into quantum physics, and boy, does that tickle your brain. Like, if you want to start building some new neural pathways, go research some quantum physics, and like what's actually happening, what we're actually discovering about the known universe is fucking fascinating. And I honestly kind of think, like, we obviously do a lot of transformational work here, is a really good pathway for a lot of people who are like, don't want to look at the woo-woo stuff, so to speak, and the energetics. I mean, here's the thing: quantum physics is saying all that stuff is accurate, right? This is because everything is born of spiritual science and indigenous, and now quantum physics is literally reaffirming that all of that is true. And honestly, probably the philosophy behind spiritual science has more clarity than quantum physics does right now. But quantum physics is starting to point at the real reality nature of what these spiritual sciences have always talked about and corroborating it. But it's like funny because talking about quantum physics, it's like almost like speaking about paradox. It actually like confuses your brain into a new reality. But what's fascinating really out of all of it is it is our ability to see that we have formulated a reality based on these quantum physics principles that's hurting us, because we were born and led to believe that there is a reality based on separation, which now, and again, like, if you think about every world problem we have, it's fundamentally based on I am separate from this. Yeah. And so it's harm to that is not harm to me, or however we structure that, and it's created such a large systemic viral paradigm that we are controlling. So if this new type of physics is breaking apart of this whole notion of the universe being a machine that we are just observing, that we're not a part of, and it's actually saying, no, there is all of that, but the only reason it's there is because we're observing. Which, try to run that by your brain. Like, the only reason the universe exists is because we're here to view it, is the only reason here. So it's like we're actually noticing that we're like, there's a subject object relationship, and you're both all the time. And so based on some of that, I've been developing processes through different teachings that we've learned over the years on how to like hack this subject object reality and do both. So on the next episode, I'll start bringing that through and some of the things I'm doing.
Cool. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. All right, friends.
Guys. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or you want to follow up with us, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can also find us in our Facebook group, The Old Souls and Seekers. All right. Have an amazing day, everyone.